Hi everyone, I'm Kim Castor, and I just wanted to introduce myself first because hopefully we'll be going through a really great adventure together on learning how to paint. I wanted to call this the Introduction to Painting video because I want to answer some questions that a lot of people have about painting. First, and decisions that you have to make. What do you want to paint in? Do you want to paint in oil or acrylic? Do you want to do knife painting? You want to paint with just a brush or both? There's a lot of things that you really need to think about. Also, I want to make sure that people realize that painting is a little bit pricey when you start, but it's well worth the investment if it's something that you want to commit to. And a lot of people think, well, I can't even draw a straight line. You don't necessarily have to draw to paint. If you watch Bob Ross, he never drew anything really. Very rarely he'd just draw a horizon line with his brush and keep on going. Now, when you get into the more of the master style painting, which we will be going into, you will want to be able to draw some things. But there's alternatives to that. You can find what you want to paint and transfer. Say you want to just do a portrait at one point. You can always do a trace and use carbon paper and transfer that onto your canvas. So there's always different options that you can use, and you need to remember that there's always a way to do it a little bit easier. If you want to draw, I encourage you to draw. If you can draw, of course, do that. There's also lots of videos out there that can teach you how to draw different things, like fruit or animals or people, even landscapes. And landscapes is one thing that we'll obviously be starting with is landscapes. A lot of those you can just draw the basic forms that you need. Say, even if it's a master type of a painting, all you really need to do is you can draw your horizon line, draw approximately where your trees are going to be, water, whatever you're going to be putting in there, meadows or different fields, things like that. So don't let the drawing part hinder you from painting. Now, one thing I want to talk about too is when you buy your supplies, painting makes a lot of difference buying some good quality brushes. Try to buy the best ones that you can afford to buy. If you buy those ones that come in a whole bunch of different packages, one big package and there's 20 or 30 brushes for $3 or $4, you're not going to be happy with them. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. We've all been through this. We try to save money and it ends up a disaster because when you get those little cheap ones, they just tend to fall apart. So try to get something that you can invest in because a good brush will last for a long, long time. And I know they're a bit pricey. I've bought hundreds of them, but I've got brushes now that I've had for 20 years. If you take care of your brushes, and we'll be doing a class on that, how to properly take care of your brushes. There are things out there that you can do that will make them last for a really long time. Even your old brushes can be used for certain things in paintings. Believe it or not, I use some old brushes for scrubbing in bushes and leaves and stuff like that and trees and stuff. So you can use them until they almost disintegrate. So don't throw them away. Just keep using them as much as you can. So the next part I want to talk about is other materials that you need. It's nice to have a palette, but if you're going to do acrylic, what I would use is palette paper, or believe it or not, a paper plate. A styrofoam paper plate works really well with acrylic. The styrofoam is waterproof, so you have a small area there, and you can mix your paints right on the paper plate. And if you need another paper plate, they're cheap. They don't cost much at all. When you're doing acrylic painting, you'll find that most of the time people prefer to do their painting flat on the table. So you don't even have to have an easel for that. Unless you can do something really, really big, then you may want to do an easel painting. But oils, most all the time you're going to want to use an easel for. And just get something that accommodates the size of the painting you want. I would recommend with oils, we're going to be doing probably 11 by 14 and 16 by 20. So that's what you're going to want to be able to hold for canvas. There's lots of different canvas sizes that we'll use. Besides that, maybe a 10 by 10, 18 by 24. But for the most part, a medium-sized easel is plenty. A tabletop is great. I have some really tall ones to do giant paintings with. I've done some really huge paintings. That's further along. Another good thing is here, I'm not sure if I can remove this camera real quick. Here's a 10-inch tablet. And see, I got a picture up here. And you can see that if I wanted to paint this picture, it makes it really convenient for me to do. These little 10-inch tablets are fairly inexpensive now. And they're great for downloading stuff from the internet and using ideas to paint. We're going to talk about some mediums that you're going to be using too with oils like Liquin. Actually, mineral spirits is still considered a medium, even though you're really just thinning your paint a little bit with it. And that's usually like if you're drawing real fine lines and things like that, you want to thin it out a little bit. Use a little bit of medium. Not very much of it. Water is what you'd use for acrylic mostly. There are mediums that you can use for that too. I will be doing separate videos on oil and acrylic as far as everything you're going to need to use to get started with. So I'm not sure any other questions you have. I'd like you to leave comments to the video because then I can answer any questions that I'm missing here. We'll also be doing videos on how to keep your brushes clean. I think I already mentioned that. And there's also things that you can use to maintain your brushes. A lot of times you get brushes and sometimes you'll accidentally put a brush up against something and it gets out of shape. Well, there's actually things that you can use that can help you reform the brush and save the brush. You don't have to throw it away. We're also going to be doing things like learning how to relax. You need to learn how to relax when you paint. Try not to get stressed. It's really a good stress reliever, painting is. And one of the biggest things I want to see people do is to learn how to be confident. Confidence is what makes a good painter more than anything else, even more than skill. Because if you go into a painting and you can't build up some confidence, that's when you start making all the mistakes. And I'm going to try to encourage you to not be afraid. Fear is the biggest hindrance for painting, because it happens all the time. People get to a certain point in the painting and they'll go, well, I'm afraid to do that because I'm afraid I'm going to mess up my painting. You just can't be afraid. You just got to go for it and see what the results are going to be. So anyway, if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me. I know this is not a very long video. It was made to mostly introduce myself and try to cover some of the topics. We'll also be doing some knife painting. I learned from one of the best, Leonard Abmoff. I went through his advanced classes, and I've painted many, many knife paintings. I enjoy painting them because I like to switch up the style a little bit, because sometimes after you've been painting with a brush for one after another, it's nice to be able to jump into something else and do something a little bit different. Okay, just to be clear, I've got some notes here. I keep a notebook here because I'm trying to plan out the classes and give it some kind of a order so that you can follow along from the beginning. If you've never painted before, this class is going to be for you, because we're going to try to start from the very beginning. If you're an intermediate painter, then you'll learn things too. So, and you're welcome to leave in comments to help others. That's a great thing to do. Knowledge is meant to be shared. So one of the things we're going to be doing is, one of the classes will be what you need for oil painting. I'm going to show you the brushes that we use, the different mediums that we use, the knives that I've used for painting. Knives and brushes go right hand in hand with a lot of paintings. It's not just a knife painting. You can do just a knife painting, and that's going to be a different tutorial. But There's all kinds of things you need to learn. What kind of canvas to get, if you want stretched canvas or a board canvas, or you can even buy wood canvas, believe it or not. And a lot of people don't know that, but you can paint on wood. And you can purchase those products at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or online, you know, lots of different places. I don't want to sponsor anybody indirectly here, but that's what you can do. You can get a lot of the materials you need online, usually at a better discount than in a lot of the stores. So we're going to be doing that, and not just that, but we're also going to be doing, the first class is probably going to be a wet on wet. I've given a lot of thought to the wet on wet, and I almost didn't do it because I just kind of didn't really want to, because it was something that I did many years ago for quite a few years, and it took me a while to get out of it. But the nice thing about the wet on wet concept from Bob Ross and William Alexander and others out there that do it still is the fact that it's a good learning tool. It's a good place to start. It gives you some basic instruction on how to use your brushes, how much paint you can use and not worry about it drying up on you, and how to mix the colors, and how to use the wet on wet. I mean, the wet on wet is usually basically for those type of a painting. When we go into like the master style painting, you really don't need the wet on wet. But for that type of painting, wet on wet is an essential part of the painting process. There's a white, there's a black, and there's a clear. Most likely we'll be using the white most of the time, maybe some black at different times too. So let's make yourself think about what avenue you want to go. If you want to wait until the master classes come, that's great too, or the knife classes. It's up to you. But being a new painter, this is a great class doing the wet on wet, because, like I said, it builds confidence. And that's what helped me a lot. I didn't have any teachers back then. I've been painting for about 35, 40 years, and I didn't have the internet to get on to get some help with, and I didn't have any art schools around. So I did go to different art schools later on, a long time from then, but that's where I built up some confidence, and that was wet on wet. Because after you do a few paintings in wet on wet, you start seeing a lot of improvement, and then you get more confidence in your painting skills. You get to learn how to use the brushes, what the brushes will do, what you don't want to do with some of them even. But, you know, you try, and that's how you learn. For instance, you know, a fan brush has many uses. You can do trees, you can do the tree trunks, you can make clouds with it, you can make grass, bushes, all kinds of things. The liner brush, which does really small, thin lines, there's all kinds of uses for that one. There's many different uses for many of the different brushes. You can paint a painting in the wet on wet style in just a few brushes, really. More brushes help, but there's no reason why you can't learn from that and then go from there and use it as a stepping stone to do way better paintings later on. Not that the wet on wet are not good paintings. Bob Ross, for what he was doing, did a great job. A lot of people love Bob Ross and Bill Alexander, and it's a great learning tool. And that's what Bob Ross's intention was for you to be happy and learn and take pride in what you're doing and build confidence. And that's the whole key to painting. You have to have confidence and the persistence and patience, and then you'll be painting, like Bob Ross says, you know, you'll be doing some happy painting. So we're going to end this video here, and I will see you in the next video. For the next video will most likely be on what you need to paint in wet on wet. And I will list and I will show you a picture of everything you need to get to do wet on wet painting. And I'm going to try to keep the first painting as simple as possible with the minimal amount of things that you need to purchase. If you have the stuff already, that's fantastic. But we're going to just start with something fairly simple so that you can get started, get your hands in there, get involved, and get practicing. Have a good day, and I will see you the next time.